Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift. We are back after a long break. We have been upskilling and we hope we can be consistent in bringing you more inspiring stories about individuals that make the paradigm shift and inspire and motivate people in their daily lives. Today, we're going live. So let me just add him. Hello, good evening, Prathi.
Hi Deepshika, how's it going? It's so weird
All
calling you
good.
Deepshika. I usually used to calling you all sorts of other things except Deepshika, but let's keep it like that for
Yes,
one.
yes. So I know Prathi since the 10th grade. And Prathi, it is so nice to see the success that you've achieved in such a short while. So before we get into this, I want to read quickly a little bit about you and everything that you're, let's show off about you. Okay. So
It's
Prathi
not
is
much to show
partner
off, to
and
be
head,
honest.
so much to show off, I know. Prathi Tandon, he is the partner and head of international sales and operations, MarketX Ventures. Before this, he has 4 years of experience in early stage venture capital investing, data science, and business consulting. And before that, he's helped Elevation.ai's pre-IPO investments business expand into the Indian market. He's grown up across 4 metropolitan cities. He studied management sciences from Loughborough University, and you have so much to tell, right, Prathi?
Yeah, I think this is not so much to tell. This is more to help. I think the kind of experiences I've had with with mental health have been so cathartic in various ways that I think some of the problems and some of the time it took me to get to where I am today can be saved for many people, if that makes sense. And this is just an attempt at maybe talking to even a single person and seeing if that person's life can be impacted by the story I have to tell.
Absolutely. So, Prathi, before we get into this, would you like to tell us what is bipolarity so that we understand what we're getting into?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I have a pen and a paper. It's a fairly simple thing to understand. I hope everyone can see me well enough. So mm, I have a bad pen apparently. 1 second. So this line over here is where we usually see our mood at, right? That's just a simple line. Uh, and we're kind of always somewhere in this region, which is a little bit of an up and a down, a little bit of an up and a down. Every day some days we're relatively happy, some days we're kind of sad. And these are different sort of mood swings that we tend to have as a normal individual. With bipolarity, I'm creating another line now, and I have very terrible pens by the looks of things. But
So
I'm
you
usually,
don't write anymore.
yeah, man. The last time I wrote was I don't know how long ago. This is what happens with bipolarity. So it's if that's your normal, if this is your normal self, um, I'm usually either up there or I'm down there, or I'm back up there or I'm down there. And then there are two types of bipolarity, actually three. There's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, and there's something called cyclothymia. So, bipolar 1, in essence, is when you are bipolar and you have relatively shorter durations of these ups and downs versus bipolar 2, which is more so slightly longer durations of these ups and downs. And then there comes something called cyclothymia, which is very rapid movements in your ups and downs. So it's like one day you're extremely happy and over the moon, the next day you're completely out of it and you don't know what's really going on.
Yeah.
So bipolar is not just one thing. It's actually, there are various types of bipolar, and it's a very complex mental health illness that has taken doctors years to understand. And there is still no real cure to it, but there are different ways in which people can gain a better understanding of their problem and solve for it.
Okay. So, Prathi, in your life, this is the definition. In your life, what were some of the symptoms that you saw or you experienced that you thought that there was something going on?
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So this takes me back a long time in my life. It was back in 2019 when it really began for me, and this is where I'm going to go very personal. Talk a lot about how I mean things I probably wouldn't say out to the general public, but I'm thinking this is probably the right way to do it. So I think it really began with with my issues that came with relationships. I think that was really the first step to this. I used to be relatively insecure. And they came from family, like background, a background of mine, which was very deep rooted, and I had reasons for my insecurity, which were still not validated, but they were what they were. I used to notice that I would be erratic in some situations, make decisions that weren't absolutely correct. I would start doing things that, things like gaslighting. It's a very common term we listen to today, and I used to see myself gaslighting the people I was in a relationship with, and it just definitely wasn't reflective of my normal personality. It's not who I felt I really was, but it began to come out as a version of me which wasn't really me, right? And then came around my final year of university. I was in the UK at Loughborough, and I was with somebody, a girl named Ruchi, who's incidentally the same name as my mother, which some people find very weird, which I find weird as well sometimes. But it was what it was again, and I was seeing this girl, and we were very close and so on, and I was about I think about 10 days from taking my final exam at university, and I began to start experiencing symptoms which were like extraordinary. I did not see this coming in my life. I started to hallucinate a little bit. I started to talk to, apparently, I was told I was talking to Judas, which is the word I kept using, and I kept talking to some sort of a devil. It was very weird. I still don't have any recollection of doing this, but apparently I was in an unconscious state, and my eyes were usually closed, and I was just staring at a ceiling and doing that. And it obviously didn't seem right. And I was so far away from home that my friends, Julio, Ruchi, these people, they eventually ended up calling my family. And I found myself sort of, after a big battle with figuring out what was going on and figuring out whether I should leave university or still take my exams in that condition. Uh, Not to say nothing against the NHS, but the NHS wasn't really helping me in that state. I was an Indian student in the UK with whatever insurance I had, and it was very difficult for them to solve for my issue. They were sending interns to me to understand my problems, and which was not solving for anything. So my father and I finally decided to fly all the way back to India, and I took a year long sabbatical from university, with the anticipation that I would end up going back at some point, right? And yeah, and that's really when that was the sabbatical that kind of made me realize my mental health issues. That I sat with myself a lot. I was very angry at myself in that moment. That was the one that I couldn't quite get around, the anger. And I don't know if many people can see this, but I have a bit of a line running past my forehead here. And this was actually a sort of a battle scar, I like to call it now, of my sort of battle with mental health. I was so aggressive towards not other people but myself. I ended up hitting my head against walls. I ended up running into doors. I ended up fighting with people on the street, and just general aggression and anxiety that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Um, Eventually
So,
came back home. Yeah, sorry.
sorry, go on. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I eventually came back home from the UK and attempted committing suicide on upwards of maybe 20 occasions. I found myself at the edge of my balcony. I found myself trying to jump out of a window. Eventually, they had to be locked in my house. It was a dark period. It's something I haven't talked to too many people about. The 20 people that are listening to this right now, probably some of them haven't heard this before, but it was just a period that I'd never want to look back to. But at the same time, I'm absolutely grateful for.
Okay. So at this point in time, Prathi, how did you cope? What were your coping mechanisms before you seeked any kind of professional help? Were you doing anything? No. Okay.
That's partly why I'm talking about this, is because I thought that maybe I can weather this. Maybe I can talk to my family and it'll eventually end. You know, like at some point this has to end and it's not going to continue. And I used to talk to my friends. I can see Karthik, I can see Ananya. These people have all been there for me through all of this, right? And I used to just think talking to these people, talking to my family, doing absolutely nothing but venting as opposed to anything else was going to solve for this. But it turns out that really wasn't the truth, you know. And there were
Yeah.
different ways and means of doing it, but we can get to that later. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that moment of realization when you said, that's it, and I need to go, I need to seek professional help? And how did you sit across the table with your loved ones discussing this?
Oh, the good part about my loved ones, and I mean, you know, I know this isn't the case with everybody. Not everyone has the support that they want from their parents, and it's very difficult to find that. And when you do, you should be really grateful for it, because my parents were literally by my side, calling it something similar to diabetes or perhaps an early stage cancer. These are literally related to a heart problem. They used to say, if you were to get a cut, what would you do? You'd go to a hospital. If you were to break your leg, you'd go to the hospital, right? So they eventually, against my will, at this point, I lacked receptivity. Just did not want to do anything. I just wanted to stay in my room and cry some more and just continue to keep doing that for a very long period of time. And then there came a point where my parents just took me to this place, telling me they wanted me to meet a doctor, and they'd already talked to this doctor before I went there, and the point was to just put me in this hospital. They thought that putting me in a hospital where I can get better would be a good decision. And this is back in 20. This is just before COVID. I'm talking literally 2 months before COVID hit. I was in a hospital for that 2 month period, 3 months as a matter of fact, and it was all against my will. I fought those doctors. Like I tried to literally have a physical fight with these doctors when my parents had to walk away and I was being left in this hospital. It just, there's a huge friction there, and I didn't know what to do in that moment. I thought I was being left, you know, to my just to my demise. I was like, crap, holy shit, what's going to happen now? And I was like, am I going to live with this alone? And I could look around me, and all I could see was like these, you know, people who were looking very sad for all sorts of different reasons. There were drug reasons, people on heroin, people on cocaine, and I was like, I haven't done any of that. Like, why do I deserve to be here? And I just did not
Right.
understand it, and I used to cry every single day about it. But yeah.
Yeah. So what were your perceptions or misconceptions before about mental health before you decided to go to the rehab? I mean, was there any of that, or it just kind of?
My conceptions of mental health were that, and I'll be very honest, I thought the doctors were frauds. I used to think they were trying to make money off of us. I used to think ridiculous things. To be honest, I used to think that they just wanted to literally just trying to make money from us and nothing else. And I was like, this is all bullshit. This is all in my head. It'll eventually go, and I don't have to worry about it. And you know, but then again, I was so worried about it that I would just sit at home and cry all day. Um, so it was just a weird double-edged sword I was fighting with. I didn't know how to solve for it in the moment. I used to fight myself, and really where most of my coping did come in was hurting myself. I would slap myself, I'd punch myself in the face, and my parents would have to watch me do that and try to stop me. I'd lock myself in my room and I'd just try jumping out. I remember kicking an entire window, like the one back here. I just kicked the entire thing down, and I had glass shards stuck inside my leg, just doing my best to kill myself. That seemed to be the best approach in that moment, and because I just thought there was nothing left to do after that point, right? And this is it. This is the end of my life, and my misconception was just that, right? Is that this is the end of my life. There's nothing left to be done. I'm a finished sort of sod, you know, and I'm guessing that was wrong, and I'm beginning to realize that it was very wrong. So.
And what were the challenges, Prathi, that you guys faced in looking for a mental health place or a rehab? What were the challenges that you found? I mean, so that that can help people. Are they very readily available, or did you have to really hunt?
No, so I think they're readily available, and there are many of them. It's just about figuring out which doctor works best for you. And with bipolarity, primarily my issue, I know, so some more general issues like general anxiety, like depression, like other things of that sort. You'll find doctors in abundance. You'll find, there's a platform I ended up building with my mommy, Ritu Mehrotra. She was the ex-head of and CEO of Booking.com Aspect, and she decided to build a mental health application where guys like me, for example, have the means and can actually go and reach out to these doctors, but we were trying to talk to the rest of these people who cannot, right? And there's a lot of stigma and taboo attached to this conversation that we're having right now. I'm sure
Right.
there'll be perhaps some people in this conversation who want to look at me and say, dude, how does this guy have the balls to say this? But again, I don't look at that stigma as a stigma. I look at it more like it's perfectly okay to talk about these things. It's as similar to a normal physical illness. So we ended up building this bot that helped people talk to literally a chat bot that was able to give them some sort of advice on what to do next, but not give them clinical advice. So there are various means to figure out more about your mental health and to talk to people about your mental health. It's just about going out there and searching for them. I feel like the biggest problem, and I'm going to finish up my point now, is that there is a friction with, I think I can figure this out on my own, right? And I don't think we'd say that if we would have the same somatic illness. I think we would literally just succumb to a doctor in that moment because he knows best, right? But we seem to want to fix our mental health issues ourselves, and I don't mean this for everybody. There are definitely people doing their best to solve for themselves and solve for their problems, but I know there are a huge chunk of people today and I've met them and I've talked to them, who struggle with all kinds of different mental health issues, but just do not see the need for a doctor or do not see the need for a psychologist or a therapist of any sort. So there is enough means out there. That's not a problem.
Okay. So what were how did you prepare your time in rehab, and what were your expectations going into it? I mean, you did explain how it happened, but did you prepare or something for this?
I didn't really. So every time I've been, I wouldn't call it rehabilitation. I'd just call it. I mean, I would call it a rehabilitation center. That's the right way to call it. It's called a psych ward in a different term. But I mean, I never knew when I was going there. It's like both times I went there, and there were two times I went there. Both times I was just like plonked into a center because of different reasons. And in the first instance, it was because there was literally no understanding of what was going on with me. So my parents thought it was the best decision to let me stay there for a little bit and understand from these people. Um, and I think the second time when I went there, it was primarily because I was in a psychotic state. And this is a very funny story. And some of my friends, if they're still on this chat, I haven't seen yet, but there were some of my friends who actually came pick me up from Galleria, which is this little center this little market in the town center. I lived there for 2 days. I lived inside a market for 2 days, working every day. I used the back of a menu. It was just a white side of the paper, and I used to write my plans for whatever work I'm doing. But I was in a bit of a trance, like it wasn't even like it was productive work. It was more like just randomized work. And that's when I really ended up in the hospital the second time around, was because I just was talking to myself again. I began to go into those hallucinations again. I began to get very aggressive again, and it just I did not seem like myself anymore to my parents. And this is when Ananya and some of my friends, they actually, Nitya Parash, I'm literally naming people that I remember doing this with me. They actually took a phone call. They picked up their phone. They called up this hospital called Tulsi Healthcare, and which was recommended to me by another friend called Viha, whose dad was going through bipolar. And they just called them up and put them on the line with my family. And the next thing I know, I'm inside an ambulance. And I still have a story that's on my Instagram, where I thought I was going to the ambulance because thought I was going to the hospital because I'd burnt out at work, but it was actually because I was going through psychosis. And there was this weird conception in my head that I was still doing okay and I did not need to be in the hospital. And that's really where the bipolarity tells you that you're in a manic state or you're in a depressive state. So some of these states that I've mentioned have two names to them. There's a manic state, there's a depressive state, and then there's a stable state. So in that very manic state, you can even go into psychosis, which is when I went the second time. So there was no real preconception. But I think one thing to always remember, when you do someday decide to go to a hospital or go to a rehabilitation center, it's not that you're going to be going there because there's something wrong with you. It could also just be because you want some time away from the world and you want to rethink the way you're, approaching particular problems in your life. And I mean, it was instrumental. Being at Tulsi, and Tulsi was the one that helped me, Sanctum Wellness, the one before that. To my mind, I was not receptive yet, right? You need to be receptive to be able to understand, to be able to actually make the most of your time at these places. If you're not receptive enough, there's nothing that's going to come out of it. You're just going to go in there and come out, and you're going to end up back in there at some point. The second time around, in the first sort of 5 days of being in that hospital, I was medicated to the point where they made me forget the last 5 days. They medicated me beyond my wildest imaginations. My dad came and stayed with me for those 5 days. I didn't even know he was there. When he told me when I came back out of the hospital that, hey, I was with you those 5 days, and all he did was yell at me the entire time, I was like, when did you come to the hospital? I don't remember you being there. So, it was that level of medication that I was put through to actually build one thing which is called receptivity. And that's what the doctors tried to do. They wanted me to come to a state in my head where I'm able to listen to someone tell me something and be receptive to what they're saying. Because you could very well have the capability to get off your bum and fucking enter a hospital tomorrow. But if you decide that I don't care about what this guy's saying to me, this guy's stupid, you're not going to get anywhere with it. You need to be able to listen to the person in front of you because they're professionals. They've been doing this for years and they know exactly what they're trying to bring to what kind of impact they're trying to bring to your life.
Right. So you've already answered my next question, but I just want to know if you want to add to it. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your time in this Tulsi Health? What did you say?
Tulsi Healthcare, yeah.
Yeah. So we must tag that once this video is
oh yeah,
uploaded.
of course, I would love to. Yeah, they were really helpful. So I think some of the challenges I faced to access them was not a problem at all. So was that your question, or did you ask me something else?
Any other challenges in that? Because like to my mind, when I think of a psych ward or any hospital or a rehab, you are taken back to all the Hindi movies or the Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies that you see, and there are all kinds of people, and the doctors and nurses running behind you with big fat syringes. So I just want to know, like, was this like you said, you were heavily medicated? Were there any more challenges? I mean, were you like fighting to be there, or it was scary in there? And I mean, for somebody who's seeking a mental health help for their issues, once you get into this, how scary is it?
Well, I think the best way to answer that, at least from my perspective, would be that when you do enter these hospitals, you feel like, wow, this is like rock bottom, right? Like there's really nowhere else to go. This is the lowest you could go in life. But when you actually end up spending time with some of the people in there, you realize they're all trying to better themselves. So it's not just your doctors that help you in there. It's not just it's even the attendants. I used to have an attendant that used to try to help me every day. He'd sit with me and talk to me forever. Like, I mean, when I had no one else to talk to around me, and I would not want to be in my mind, I just didn't talk to this guy. And what I learned was that these people that I ended up speaking, the peers around me, there was a lot to learn from them as well. And initially I wasn't open to speaking to them because I used to think they were all something wrong with them, and something would go wrong with me if I talked to them. It used to be as weird as that, but it's really not the case. They're all trying to help themselves in some ways. It's kind of like when you see two different types of people in a gym, right? And one of them is unfit, the other one's fit. There are two types of people then. There's one person who will make fun of the person who is unfit and will like ridicule them pretty much, right? Like, why are you in this gym? You're ugly. And then there's a second person that would come in that would actually want to lift that person up, right? It's rare you find the people that don't want to lift you up around you in a hospital like that, because they're all in there to help themselves, so they're looking to help you as well, which is what I learned just when I started interacting with these people.
Okay. And so looking back, is there... Mama,
Hello.
Mama knows that you were on live, so she wanted to come and say hi.
Oh, okay.
So looking back, now that you're out of it, looking back, is there anything you wish you had done differently in terms of seeking help for your issue?
I think again, it's so important to be receptive, like just letting your mind, like, if suppose you have an issue, whatever it is, it has power over you till you say it doesn't, right? And you need to agree to the fact that it has power over you till that point, right? So my honest, I mean, what I like to get at here is that if a person believes that this problem has power over them and they end up trying to solve for it with receptivity and with openness and willingness to change, which is actually something I learned at the hospital, as a matter of fact. It was something about openness and willingness to change, kind of stuck with me, right? You need to be open enough, and you need to be willing enough to make that difference to your life. And if when you immediately enter a space like talking to a doctor or a psychologist, even if it's in a general clinic sort of a format, or an online thing, and if you are already thinking that this person has really nothing to add to your life, which is usually the case, you think that this person's stupid, he didn't understand me. It's not necessarily true. You just haven't opened up enough to. I mean, and I'm sure there definitely are always doctors that don't fit your style of talking, and they want to have a different approach. And there are approaches like CBT, there are approaches like 100 other approaches towards solving for your problems. You should just be open to whatever it is, because he's obviously coming with some level, or she's coming with some level of experience in this particular industry, and they've seen hundreds of people like you, and all they're trying to do is help. My initial misconception was that they were all trying to make money, and that used to hurt. Like, now that I think about it, had I continued with that misconception, even my most recent stint at the hospital, which was March last year, it was actually yesterday last year I came back from the hospital, I would have probably not been where I am today. I would have probably continued to fight this problem over and over again, and I'd probably still be somewhere in an awkward state between a manic and a depressive state,
Okay, so how did you manage the stigma surrounding this whole mental health issue and seeking help? Even, three cheers to you for coming out on a platform and speaking like this. So how did you manage all of this?
Initially it depended on who I was talking to. So if it was like the people I was working with, then I'd just lie. I'd be like, oh, listen, I mean, I have this to do, that to do, 50 places to be, and I'm doing so much work, look at me. But that's just me sitting in my bed crying. If it was my friends, if they were close enough to me, and there were people I enjoyed talking to, like there was Natasha, there were lots and lots of people that I used to speak to a lot, and these were like some of my closest friends in the world, and I could talk to them about anything. So having those people that would just, I'm an open book to these guys, and they know most of the stories I'm telling you right now. The fact that I wasn't ready to do this on a public forum yet was because I didn't know if I'd solved from any of my mental issues. And I'm not saying today that I'm no longer bipolar or I'm everything is good with me. I still have days where I feel low. I still have days where I feel high. I still have days where I feel super high. Like, I've been doing a lot of incredible work in a speaker sort of a position I'll be talking in various events in the next coming month, and I'll be traveling a lot. That gives you this inherent high, right? That you're doing well with your life, and sometimes that can go overboard, and I'll then need to take these two pills and a third one every single day, and just make sure that I'm medicating myself. With my particular condition with bipolar, medication is kind of like it's a blood pressure medication. You don't take it, you'll struggle. In 2 or 3 days, you will begin to realize you're going through all kinds of other issues you didn't see coming. So, that's really what I have to say for this. It's that there was really the stigma of talking to people around the world about it was because I didn't know if I was ready to talk to them about it yet. And today I'm at a state in my life where I feel ready to tell people what I've been through. And, the goal again, I know there weren't too many people on the platform that time, but even if there's one of you, 20 people that take something away from this and decide that, okay, I feel like I struggle with X, Y, or Z, and I perhaps should go to a doctor. I should go to someone to talk to about this. And I keep talking about doctors over and over again because they're very underrated in this particular field. Just do it. Like, don't think about it. Just get up and it's not about going there once. It's not about going there twice or 3 times. It's about going there consistently over a period of time. You will begin to realize the effect it's making to you. It takes a while.
Yeah. That was my next question. That what is the advice that you would give somebody who thinks has a bipolar or a mental health issue and is hesitant to seek help?
Well,
So,
step one,
do
I
you
would,
want to add something there?
yes, yeah, step one, I'd say don't diagnose yourself. Do not diagnose yourself. That's the worst thing you could do because at the end of it, you'd just be like, yeah, I think I have bipolar, and you start medicating yourself for it. You start trying to solve for particular problems in your life which you actually don't have. Mental health have many coinciding elements. Like a person who's depressed could be bipolar, but a person who's bipolar may not necessarily always be depressed. It's very, very complicated. This little guy up there is way more complicated than we think it is, and that's perhaps why there aren't so many people talking to doctors about it. It's because they don't understand it themselves. They don't know what to talk to a doctor about to begin with. But just get out there and put yourself in that particular space and see what happens. Right? It's the best thing you can do. Just put yourself out there. Is all I have to say about this.
That's valuable advice. Okay, so what were some of the coping mechanisms or tools that you have found helpful to manage your mental health on a day-to-day basis, other than medication that you said that you have to take?
So both of these guys here are like my best friends. These dudes over here. I mean, it feels awkward showing this on camera because it makes me seem like I'm like, you know, in like in some sort of an issue in life, which it is the case. But I'm pretty open about it. I medicate myself every single day. It needs to be consistent and it needs to be sustained. It can't be that you think you're getting better today and tomorrow you stop because you think you're better. It just needs to be every single day. And then again, that really depends with your style. So for example, when I'm in a very high state, I take a certain dosage of a medication called lithium, right? And that's relevant to my high. It's trying to bring me back to a stable state. And when I'm low, I add 2 or 3 other medications to it and remove the other ones, right? So number one's medication. Number two is just take care of yourself, man. Like people don't do that enough. I don't think that, and I'm still guilty of saying these bags under my eyes that most people are seeing right now. It's still me not sleeping enough, right? Sleep is something that is incredibly underrated. Some of us do it for hours and hours, and that's actually bad for you. Some of us don't do it enough, right? We think, I mean, I'm an investment banker and a venture capitalist, and my job requires me to stay up till 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in some mornings, right? And the most important thing to remember is to just give yourself, if you're sleeping at 3 a.m., wake up 6 or 8 hours later. Just, it's okay. You can cut the rest of your day out. Let your employers know in advance that sleep is something that matters a lot to you, because if you don't give that enough importance, your health over not just your mental health, but your physical health begins to deteriorate. So it kind of all works together. Next one is eating right? And this one's very underrated again. So, your gut and your head have this weird thing going on between them, and I haven't quite understood it yet. But when you feel anxious about something, you may have felt your stomach go funny, right? Like if you're about to get on a stage, your stomach is the first thing that begins to respond to you. You're just like getting all weird and airy, and you feel that feeling.
Butterflies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, butterflies of sorts. I probably had maybe 3 butterflies before I came on this live right now. So it's like it's a weird connection they have. So eating well is really important. Drinking enough water and just having a support system, man. If it's not your family, if you think your parents don't understand this and never will, that's fine. Find 2 friends who you think can be your soundboard, right? Like, and who are actually okay doing it and don't feel like you're bearing down on them. It's not that you go there and just talk to them about this. And even if there is a mental health issue, figure out other conversations you can have to try to distract yourself. Always try to distract yourself, because these issues don't just go away. Like, it's not like today you have anxiety, tomorrow it's gone, or a year later it's gone. It takes a sustained period. I've been doing this, running back and forth between hospitals, dealing with my mental health issues, trying to commit suicide on and off for over like 3 years now. It's been 2020, and it's almost time for COVID 2020 now. So it's been 3 years, and I've been dealing with this since then.
So before we get into the last few questions, I want to request everybody that has joined us from Prathi's account, please go give us a like and a follow, because we bring you beautiful, inspiring stories of people like Prathi, who, like he said, wants to make a difference even in one person's life. Even if one person can actually take that step, seek the help, and make a shift in their world, it's going to be totally worth it. So please give us a follow. Okay, so Prathi, you've already answered half of this. How do you prioritize self-care and mental health wellness in your daily routine?
I seem to talk a lot, don't I? So I'm gonna try cutting this short. So I think it's just my daily routine. You've answered the question within the question, right? So it's a routine for me. My doctors have always told me the most important thing in my life is maintaining a daily schedule, is making sure that I'm guilty of still not following this completely, right? I'm going to be very honest with everyone here. I can't tell you that I'm this perfect dude who's sitting on a calendar every single day and has my entire day planned out. I'm still kind of crazy. This coming week, I'm going to be home for all of 6 hours between flights, and I don't know how much sleep I'm going to get. I don't know the kind of food I'm going to end up eating. I don't know what's really going to happen in all these days, but I think it's just doing your absolute best and keeping that at the back of your mind that, taking care of your mental health is, and your routine and your physical health should be the first priority. Your job comes after that, no matter what you do in your life. And I remember I was just recently at an offsite in Mexico with the rest of my team, and I remember talking to them in my ice breaking session, because I'd met maybe 10 of them for the first time in my life, and we're all from different countries. I remember telling them that I'm bipolar, and I told them about kind of my need for taking care of myself, right? And if they need me on a call at a certain time, unless it's super urgent, I won't be there. It's as simple as that, right? Because it's a US company. They'd be working at 3 a.m. my time, and if sometimes they need me on a call at that time, I say no. But there are also times where I have to do it, and there's a fine line between the two, right? So know when things are super urgent or required, and be very honest to yourself, and be very honest to the person in front of you about whatever it is you're facing, and I'm sure all of this will fall in place.
Absolutely. So you also work out, or do a little bit of yoga, or do you run, or do you walk?
And you just you've just hit me below the belt. Oh god, okay. So I used to be like this ridiculous gym buff at some point, and I don't know where that's vanished
I
to.
know. That I know.
Yeah, so it was a time when being gym was the most important thing to me. You know what? I miss it, and I think I'm not prioritizing that part of my routine enough today, and that's just, again, me being honest. I think I've been giving work a lot more focus and then not giving myself. I still remember giving that 1 hour a day to the gym, and I wouldn't give it anymore. And I would just have my headphones on and I'd forget about the world. It's like it's gone. And that 1 hour would be my little therapy of its own. And I think ever since these troubles hit me with mental health, me going to the gym has become very erratic. It's like I've had phases where I'm in the gym, I've had phases where I'm out of the gym, and it really depends upon my mental health, which really takes me back to the fact that people who do struggle with these problems, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, things like going to the gym, things like your work will all immediately get impacted, right? And it's really important that you first of all accept that, and then second of all do your absolute best to fix it. So you've now, because I've said it in front of 15 odd people, I am suddenly motivated to go back to the gym.
Okay, great. So even if you're not going to the gym, you're going to run, you're going to walk, you're going to breathe, you're going to do some kind of physical.
I do something called deep breathing every single day. Like it's a 4-7-8 technique that I use.
Okay.
It's really helpful. I can't explain that. When I'm in a sort of state of mind where I'm super, super, like elevated, or I'm extremely overwhelmed with something, I tend to sit myself down on my bed, or even if I'm in the shower, for example, I take that additional like 5 minutes to just do 10 cycles of a 4-7-8, 4-7-8. I just do that over and over again. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you let go for 8 seconds. Very slowly you let go. So that's something that has definitely helped me maintain my composure in very awkward situations.
All right. That is super. Okay, so what steps are you taking, Prathi? You have already told us that you're not going to let go of that medication to prevent a relapse and maintain the state you are in right now.
I mean, I go back to the stuff I said before. Before I never accepted I have the problem. Now I accept I have a problem. Number one is accepting it. Number two is constantly taking care of things like medication, sleep, the correct eating habits, perhaps, and this is very important, exercising, because if you have, in my particular case, where energy is a huge factor. I have a lot of energy. I'm filled with energy, and I think you've known this since the 8th grade. There's too much I have to always say. I think releasing a lot of that energy in a place like the gym does calm you down, or running, or whatever else it may be.
Yeah.
So releasing a lot of
Yeah.
energy as well. That's a really helpful one.
Okay, and what do you wish more people understood about mental health and the recovery process?
That's a. I mean, I think realizing that it's really normal, like, and I know, mental health is has like Sushan. I see that many people, again, I go back to that first thing I said, even in our preview videos, that when you have another issue, if it's somatic, you just end up in a hospital, right? You take care of yourself. But and you think it's normal, right? I've broken a bone. I was playing football. I mean, I've broken all kinds of different things in my body, and I can't even name some of them. But like it was like we just take that it's super normal to be solving for that problem. But like when it comes to your head, you're like, it's a bit of a stigma, right? You're like, even though mental health has progressed so dramatically and people are beginning to talk about mental health, there's a World Mental Health Day, there's companies taking 4-day work weeks. I love that progress. I think that's a great thing to do. But I still think there are people sitting in silence and in the dark, and they still don't know how to come out of that issue that they're currently dealing with. So I think the fact that you're in silence, or you're sitting in the dark at the moment, is telling me that you don't accept that you have the problem. And even if you accept that you have the problem, you don't think it's normal to have this problem. So just it's as normal as it gets. You could have diabetes, you could have a mental health condition. It's the same thing. So just remember that whenever you have that issue.
That is so well said. So, Prathi, what is the one last thing that you want to tell our viewers, or you want to bring something else to the platform before we call it a day?
I mean, all I like to say is, guys, is that, I mean, whoever's really listening, I think, market, you know, I've spent 3 years in the dark, 3 years. Yeah, sorry. You trying to say something?
Yeah, I think I lost you for 1 second. Maybe you
Okay.
got to do something. Can you
Yeah, let me
repeat?
just get it.
Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
back to is
Can
it back to
you?
normal? Am I back to normal?
Sorry.
Am I
Yeah.
back to normal?
We're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing, to sort of, I lost my train of thought in that entire thing that just happened, but I think, if you're struggling with a mental health illness, I did for over 3 years, and I still am today. I call it an illness. Um, don't let it pass. It's just like, it's the most normal thing to treat a somatic illness. It should be equally normal to treat an asomatic illness, right? So treat it. Do something to solve for it. Just do anything, you know. Talk to somebody. But find yourself in a space where you feel absolutely comfortable with the fact that you have this problem. Until you haven't felt that way, nothing is going to help you. You need to know I have the issue, or that you have the issue, and then just make the first step. You know, don't sit in the dark with it. It's the only thing I'd like to say, because I sat in the dark with my condition for over 2 years of my time. I didn't talk to a soul properly. I was always awkward around people. I didn't even know how to, you know, like, introduce myself to somebody at one point. Like, forget being on a live video. I wouldn't even be able to say hello. I would hide in my bathroom when people would come home. I remember sweating in my bathroom for like 2 hours because someone was home and I thought they were going to come inside and talk to me. You know, so it's super normal to have a mental health issue. And just remember that is the only thing I can say about this. It's it's just go absolutely, just get yourself out there, and don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine.
Oh, that last line was so cute, you know, don't worry about it. You know, that's so inspiring. I mean, this whole conversation that we had, Pratik, has been absolutely, you know, shedding light on this whole mental health issue. And I just love the way you have explained everything, all the technicalities, all the specifications, everything that you uh, have gone through. I want to read this: Nurture India, Nat, Nat, Natur India. Well done, young man. You're doing great. And I want to share a talk with you from Jaggi Vasudev on mental health. Where's the practice? Incredible. This. Okay, so you can share that with us. Yes, it has been very, very inspiring. And like you said, Prathi, um, out of this, because we come across a lot of people in our daily lives that we think would have had this, you know, like we kind of make fun of this. Oh, she must be bipolar or he must be bipolar. And to think they probably don't even know that they have that thing, and they're not even, like you said, not going to seek help, or, you know, self-diagnosing or whatever. And they need to, I wish they had friends and their loved ones could actually tell them that, you know, there is a problem and let's get you help. So thank you so much for doing this, Prathi. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the platform, and I don't know how many people I was able to help slash inspire. I hope there was someone who took something away from this. And I'm happy to do this in other sort of, you know, in other different places. I'm going to be at a TEDx talk very soon, trying to do something similar again. And it's just about making that impact and letting other people know what I've been through, and the fact that if I can go through it, and, you know, I used to very often find myself in a place and where I thought that this is the end of my life. This is all it is that I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life. And I'm talking as old as 7 months ago. I was in a space where I would think that this is it. You know, my life is going to be a constant battle back and forth between this mental health issue that I'm dealing with, and there's nothing else that defines me. I would, you know, I would urge people to read this book. It's called Befriending Bipolar. It's by a guy called Charles Seligman. if you ever find yourself seeing symptoms that he's mentioned in the book, because bipolar is more common than people think it is, I feel like I know people who've exhibited these symptoms to me in the past, but haven't really accepted that they have the condition. And I'm not going to diagnose them, or they're going to diagnose themselves. So I leave that to a doctor. But yeah, just go outside and just put yourself out there. And it's, as I said, it's very normal to have a mental health condition.
So well put, Prathi. Thank you so much for doing this. And once this video is uploaded, I am going to ask you to tag Tulsi Health Center and also put in the comments the book that you just mentioned, so that people can actually, read. And there is Nidhi Ahuja says, a while ago you inspired me to seek help, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. There, you've already inspired one person.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Glad to hear it, Nidhi.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye, Prathi. See
Goodbye.
you.
Thank you for watching, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you.